Welcome, Michael McKinley here, chairperson, and a call to order to hear ADRB 20-C3 review of planning and zoning app for and special use permit to a warehouse, storage facilities, associated parking, landscaping, and drainage. 30 and 40 Extrusion Drive. Okay, so applicant, take it away.
Sure. Let me just, if I can just jump in and I'm gonna mute everyone's microphones, because that's sort of the rule with these, is to always mute your microphone if you're not talking, so that way people don't hear the echo and weird reverberations and things like that. But if you want to speak, you just unclick the little microphone that's there when you put your cursor to the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so Sergio, you are up.
Thank you, Keith. So I can share my screen, correct? You're also muted, Keith. You said yes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. We appreciate you all taking the time to get on a virtual meeting to get us on the agenda here. For the record, Sergio Cerenzia with Cerenzia & Associates. I am both the president and principal of the company, Site Civil and Land Surveying. I've been in front of this board a few times before. My offices are located at 99 Mechanic Street, and the plans and survey that are in front of you this evening, the site plans were prepared by my office under my direction. And for the record, I am a licensed engineer and a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. Some of you may have been on the board when we presented the project at 30 Extrusion. I'm going to just go ahead and bring up my site map and share my screen here. Hopefully this works. So the project, which was already permitted and built, consists of 5 buildings, and you can see on the right side of the plan, those have been constructed. See if I can zoom in a little bit here. I believe you all should be able to be seeing my screen now. These are storage buildings. One, I believe, climate controlled building in the front. Then there's 3 drive-up storage buildings behind that, and then the last one's is that climate controlled as well? Oh, that's drive-up as well. And the last one, sorry, is drive-up as well. My client, for a while, wanted to expand into the adjacent parcel. It just made good sense, and the town bus garage or bus depot was pursuing the lot at one point. You may or may not have seen it. I don't think there was a large building on it to park the buses there. That since fell through, couldn't be budgeted, I believe, something along those lines, and so the opportunity came up for my client, which made a lot of sense to us, and I think makes a lot of sense to the town, that we just expand the use that's already there onto the adjacent piece. Right now, there's 2 separate properties here, a lot line that runs between the 2 of them, and this lot over here actually is vacant. So what we did was showed what we could, the capacity with respect to the amount of floor area ratio on the site, this property actually extends really far into the rear, but is encumbered by a significant amount of wetlands. So the front is good upland, historically been kind of cleared and just slightly filled, and we're going to have to bring it up even more to meet the grade of the adjacent site, which always should work, and then slowly slope it away from the buildings to the front. You can see that we have some drainage basins up here that will overflow to another drainage basin in the rear, and then overflow into the wetlands. We're going to maintain a gravel or a crushed stone parking surface to mitigate the impact of that. We don't see a lot of traffic on this site, so it's suffice to say that, you know, pavement on a site like this isn't really necessary, and it's been functional and working just fine on the adjacent parcel, with the exception of the portion in the front of this site, which is paved as it, you know, enters onto the street. So we will be collecting all the impervious area associated with the buildings, treating them in the stormwater basins. Holly Beckman, the project landscape architect, will get into a little bit more detail on how we're implementing landscaping in these areas, so they won't not only be functional but also aesthetically pleasing. I will add that we have obtained approval from the Inland Wetlands Commission. So albeit that we're, you know, the blue line, which we have to identify for wetlands, is in the rear here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. You can see it with a little more context. So you can see the blue line back here is the wetland and continues on to the adjacent parcel. I believe there's some standing water on this side, but basically we'll be treating all of this before it discharges in this area to the wetlands. The site as it stands now, we already have an office in the main facility, so we won't need to tie in any additional sewer capacity. And the only additional water line which we are pursuing is for fire suppression. Given the size of the buildings, they either need to be partitioned or need to, they require a certain amount of water for fire flow and be sprinklered, which we're pursuing with the Westerly Water Department right now before we get to our special use permit hearing. That's probably all you want to hear from me. I could speak ad nauseum to the details of the site design, but it's fairly simple. As I mentioned, an extension of the other site, and we'll be eliminating the property line in between, which will allow us to have the buildings so close to the other buildings because there's no setback in. We will have some parking back in this area, but we've found that there's really not a whole lot of parking, even though we meet the regulations, the zoning regulations for parking. There's not a lot of people sitting around in parking here. They pull up to the buildings, they unload their stuff, they bring it in, and I think there'll be even less people hanging about because a lot of people, and my client CJ, he can attest to it, they come, they visit their stuff, they pull stuff out of their storage unit, they put it back in, or they're coming in and out to move some of their things on a periodic basis. Given the nature of this storage facility, everything's contained inside. Probably see less of that, but we have accommodated the parking. So with that, unless anyone has any questions for me, I can move it over to either Holly or Julia. Do you know which one you want to?
I can jump in quickly and then let Holly take over.
We'll have Julia, the project architect, Julia Leeming. She'll give you a little bit of rundown of the buildings, which are very similar to the other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up.
You want to check in with them to make sure that's okay? I can do the rendering.
The rendering? Okay. Keith, is that or I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, is that okay if we go on to the buildings, or does anyone have any questions?
I don't hear any questions, Sergio, so therefore it's okay to go on.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions, but you might as well just carry through with your presentation, and then we'll make notes.
Okay, I'm just going to pull up the rendering.
I think you had it on the internet, didn't you?
Oh, did I have it already?
Yeah, I think you had it.
Pull this down. Actually, I already had it up.
Yeah.
It's just there's a lot of things popping up around here. There we go.
Can you hear me through my face mask?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, we're all in a conference room together, so we're wearing face masks. So the two images on the bottom of the screen are existing photographs of the adjacent facility. That's the building that's on Extrusion Drive. And for the two buildings proposed on the site that we're coming to today for, the idea is really to just pull from that existing front building in terms of material, in terms of eave height, and in terms of roof pitch. So that existing front building, the low eave point is at 9'4", and then it's a 3/12 pitch. And the two buildings on our site would follow that and start at 9'4", and then have a 3/12 pitch over the extent of the roof line. Traxi is the storage facility building manufacturer, and so we're using two of their standard colors, which are the same on the existing facility. It's slate gray, which is sort of a lightish gray, and then the roof is called Harbor Blue, and you can see that on the rendering as well. So the buildings are, they're sheds, they're boxes, and Holly has done a beautiful job of trying to max them from the street and nuance them a little bit, because they are storage buildings. But I think in terms of tone, the blue is a nice, cheerful blue. It does look nice against the sky when you drive by. And the gray is just sort of, it recedes. It doesn't jump out and call any attention to itself. And really, I think that's kind of all there is to say about the building.
Yeah. Oh, you want to say that there are no entrances to vehicles?
They're all, well, okay, one thing to add is that they're both climate controlled, so they'll probably only be 2 or 3, maybe 4 doors per building, but they won't have lots of roll-up doors on them the way other drive-up storage buildings are. So these truly are metal skin with probably 4 doors per structure. And other than that, it's just the siding.
Does anyone have any questions for Julia, or we can continue on and take questions for later, or whatever the board's pleasure?
Well, I guess.
I would just continue. Oh, do you have something, Leslie?
Leslie, you're muted if you can unmute your microphone.
There we go. I don't have any questions. Just go ahead.
Okay. Continue. Thanks.
You want to go to the plan?
You want the landscape plan?
Let's try, and we'll probably, I don't know if we can see, may go between the two of them.
That's fine. I'm going to pull it up so that we can toggle between them.
Yeah.
I might have had it before. Let's see. Oh, we had...
No, you had it.
You have it on the screen.
Yeah, I thought you had it. Holly, investment narrative, up further.
Easier elevation.
Up to right there.
Landscape plan. Bear with us. Thank you. Let's see.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
This one?
That's the one. Okay. I think the first thing, can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say that we have, on the site, we have 17 parking spaces, and for a total of 340 square feet. And what we're proposing is 2,000 square feet of landscaped area. So we meet and exceed, the landscape requirements for the town. So what I will do is start on the gravel driveway in between the existing units, storage units, and so, yeah, if you could show them, yeah, so they're going to have a shared driveway. It's partly gravel, and then when it comes up to, I don't know if you can show them, it turns into asphalt. Just see where the zone line is, zone X. Yeah, right there. That is where it becomes asphalt. We do have, in addition, an existing ornamental steel gate that blocks that off. And on the existing section, the existing planting, we have an infiltration pond up front on Extrusion Drive, and we are just going to continue that theme all the way down until we come to Constitution Avenue, so that there's continuity between the two projects. And so we're proposing the same plantings along as we did in the original. And these plantings, you'll see that there are some trees in there, but for the most part, they are shrubs that are going to be between 8 and 12 feet tall when they reach their maturity. And some of those are Humimelis virginiana, which is a witch hazel. We have Ilex verticillata, which is a holly with red berries that's deciduous. And we have viburnum. So we're proposing that all the way down the line. And if you notice, we have it 10 feet off the building so that the building is not going to, these are not going to grow into the building and look messy. So with that, we come around to Constitution Avenue and we continue with the young infiltration and up to the sediment forebay. And again, because we have a street frontage here and we have a little bit of room between the Constitution Avenue and the forebay, we are proposing some street trees. And we're looking at birches, and we've actually done a pine tree just to soften the area to give a sense of streetscape. And these plantings these street trees will be drought tolerant. We continue on down to the parking area, and where that first building connects, if you could, Sergio, if you can zoom in, the fence starts behind that sediment forebay. And next building up. Yeah, right there, right behind that sediment forebay. And no, the next one, thanks, Louis. Yeah.
Right here.
So that's where the ornamental fence starts for a couple reasons. One is traffic patterns, but it also protects the drainage structure. And continuing on down in front of the parking, as I said, is the ornamental fence. And then we continue with some maple trees, Acer Freeman Armstrong, which are 50 feet apart as per code for a street tree. Then we obviously come on down to, again, the proposed sand filter drainage area. That whole wetland area has been designed so it meets the requirements for wetlands and any of the state requirements that you might have. The sand filter, along the edge of that, we're proposing conservation seeds, so there won't be any mowing. There won't be any need for maintenance in there. So as a result, what we have along the back of proposed building 2, and before that sand filter, we have fenced that off so that again will remain presently, you know, if approved, we will have a structure there, but then it will start to look more natural and work with the abutting wetlands. We have taken a moment and just kind of softened the area where we have the drainage structure going into the wetlands, so that that is not something that will be noticeable after construction. And I think, and that is within the 25-foot setback. I think that pretty much sums it up in terms of landscape. And of course, I'm open to any questions that you might have.
And don't forget to unmute your microphones if you're looking to speak. That's by bringing the cursor down to the microphone that pops up.
Any comments?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I have some questions about the landscaping. When I drove by the site, and when I look at the existing building, there's very little landscaping there. Are you going to bring some of this new plan into the existing plan, because it looks very sparse, but your plan here looks a lot more lush and built out for landscaping?
Yeah, actually, this is CJ. I'm one of the owners. We the plantings we did 3 years ago, make a long story short, they didn't survive, and I actually ripped them all up like 3 weeks ago. Like, there's a big row of hedge that was in the front. I ripped them up, and then we're putting some new stuff in. A lot of it I'd rather wait and do the same exact time. So right now there's like a row of like seagrass that was put in just to have something there. But the plan is, once we actually do this expansion, to redo all the landscaping.
Okay, that sounds good. And then when I look on the plan, detail B for the fence, what is the material that the fence is made of? Fence color to be black.
It's a metal fence. It's a metal.
Okay.
Is that the ornamental or the chain link?
That's the ornamental, I think.
Yeah, the ornamental fence. It says 8-foot classic premier black. It's going to be black, match black vinyl chain link. Okay.
The material will be either aluminum or steel.
That's consistent with your name.
Yeah, and that's what's in the front of the current site at 30 Extrusion.
Okay, thank you. That's all my question.
Okay, I have a general question. I mean, all this seems in order to me so far, but has anyone been out to this site? Any of the board members?
I was there today, actually. I drove there today.
I haven't. I've seen it from the Route 1 a lot, and sort of the windshield, at 35 miles an hour.
Yeah, Extrusion Drive, it's all very industrial. So Davis Standard just goes down the length of Extrusion Drive on the opposite side of this site. So it just looks like it's adding to the industrial nature of that neighborhood.
Right. Seems like a very good fit visually.
Yeah, it's very neat that whole area. It's not overgrown or messy or derelict or anything like that.
Sergio or Julia, could you put up a site plan that showed the relationship of these to the existing buildings? I know it's somewhere, but do you have that handy?
On the landscape, you did show the butt end.
Oh, no, I haven't. Hold on.
Is there a plan?
The short answer is I can if I can find it here. About 1 minute. Was it on the web book?
It was one of the links.
One of the links I had.
Yeah, go back, yeah. You can get rid of that box.
Here it is.
Yeah, site plan, there's a link in the email.
Can you see the site plan I have up right now?
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
so
Okay.
This
All right,
shows
so-
the relation with the existing on the right. It's all grayed out.
Okay.
Of the 5 buildings I was alluding to earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I
And then
see.
how it's gonna, basically, the entrance is over in this area here. Actually, what might help is I can annotate this. So let's see if this will show up.
Mhm.
Oh, now there's a big box in there. Hold on one second. Make that go away. Okay. Annotate. So the entrance is over on this side, and there's a fence along here. So you can come in this way, drive pretty much around, and go to your storage unit. Come back around this way, and then you can head around this building, or you can go straight out. The exit's going to remain here. So you can go around this building and then go out. There's multiple ways you can go. This building here is only going to be accessible along the yellow side. The front and the side are not going to be accessible. And then the other building will have accessibility potentially around the entire, depending on where the doors are. But no drive-ups, they'll just be large doors where you can open it up, take a card in to move your stuff in and out. Everything's accessed from the inside.
And can you drive in between those? I'm just curious. Is that how you get to your bay?
In between the buildings?
Yeah, how do you get into the building? To
The existing buildings,
new buildings?
There'll be, Michael, there's just sort of regular entry doors. They're probably 4 feet wide, but there's a little recessed vestibule with a 4-foot door, and then inside the volume of the storage building, there are interior hallways, and the conditioned units are accessed by those hallways, and they have roll-up doors, but they're all on the inside. So on the exterior, you just see, a recessed vestibule and a door.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Other questions? Yes? No? No. Okay. Mark? Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, I have no questions. I think, like you alluded to, I think that Davis Standard is one of those things that people say, get out of here. Is it really near the high school? You drive by and you don't even know it's there. And I think that this will just fall into that abyss of, the predicated industrial space that we have down there.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, I would say to the visual side of things, which does concern us probably more than the site drainage. And in terms of the built form, the architecture that cohesiveness is good, right? And a lot of things, and it looks like they get very high marks on that in terms of what's there and what's coming and the site development. And the worst thing about this kind of development is that it occurs sort of ad hoc at random, and the buildings are different orientations, and there's fences all over the place. This, in contrast, seems to have that cohesion, and then there's the coloration is kind of cool because this is kind of a collection of colored groups maybe from a distance, which all I think is good. So I just pass that on to the applicant to, further that concept in any way possible. We don't have Chris here as our landscape architect professional.
Yeah, I appreciate the colors as well, the blue roof and the gray siding and the landscaping. And I like that this whole area seem more organized and thought out, as opposed to like Alice Court, across from Stop and Shop, which is a mishmash of rundown industrial buildings. This street seems to be more professionally planned. So.
Okay. All right, if there doesn't sound like there are any other questions or comments, or conditions or anything. So is there a motion on the floor?
I'll motion to approve as presented.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have unanimous approval with no conditions, and a job well done to the applicant, and we look forward to seeing the new construction out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
I also appreciate the gravel drives instead of all that pavement, so that's good too.
That's right. Yes.
That's easy to maintain.
Yeah, given the amount of traffic that it gets, it makes sense. And the Wetlands Commission also appreciated that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Keith, are you all set with us? We can log off now?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll take off before you change your mind. So we're out of here.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's a Swiss company.
Okay. Keith, do you have?
No, just looks like the only thing left are the minutes here.
Okay.
From February 10th.
Well, that was a virtual meeting, was it? No.
No.
No, that was our last real one.
That's not a virtual meeting.
Mystic Seaport.
That's right, Mystic Seaport.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with them. Look reasonable. Good job. No one else?
No comment. Everything looked fine to me.
Okay. Okay. Well, then, unless there's any other business, I mean, anybody want to, commiserate about their ugly situation and being kind of isolated from humanity? Or is it actually better that way?
It's not bad. I'm still going into my office. I now have a suite in Quambach Cove, not far from, around the corner from Chris. So I'm going in every day and locking myself away, I guess.
Uh-huh. Great.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not much traffic in that building.
Did we, was there a vote on the minutes?
Oh, no. Sorry about that. So we'll, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any chance we'll be able to get a big classroom somewhere, Keith? What do you think?
Well, maybe. I mean, that little town hall meeting room is awfully tiny, before considering a pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
So, a bigger room would make sense, especially when people aren't supposed to be on top of each other. When we do go back to regular meetings, whenever that is, I'm sure there will be some sort of restrictions that the state puts out about how close people can be together. So
Mhm.
I'm sure we'll have to be in a bigger room. These meetings don't get a lot of public visitors usually, but once in a while you do.
Mhm.
In a way, it's sort of tough with this board because this board always had like a nice sit around the table and look at the plans sort of vibe to it. So in a way, it makes it a bit more impersonal, when people are presenting on the poster board from 20 feet away from you.
Yeah.
But it's
It's hard
part of
to
what we'll have to do.
stamp this around, isn't it?
But, they could set up their boards and we could one at a time get up and walk up to them and look and, still keep 6 feet distance. I think it's workable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the town is trying to think of ways to keep everybody distance and, especially with the schools coming up in, September, we've got an empty middle school, so it may get overflow from the school system too. I don't know what's going to be available once they flesh everything out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of strange things to think about that no one had to think about before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious over the next 3 or 4 months to see what sort of volume of applications for 5 or 6 months.
Mhm.
Right? I mean,
That's true. There might not be a lot.
who knows? Yeah, and I mean, it's so unpredictable. I think that might, or just the opposite. There could be significant amount of all sort of level of work. It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By the way, I should.
I've got something coming in the next time we meet. And Keith, you alluded to that we can maybe meet whenever we want now because of this modality that's forced on us. Would we stick to the third week scenario, or I'm probably ready in 2 weeks. I don't want to create extra work or get out of sequence. But when do you think the next meeting would be?
Well, the next meeting normally would be the second Monday of the month, which would be Monday, June 8th. Which is just 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not. It's 3 weeks from now.
3. That's fine. That gives me more time. I'll take it. And I won't be presenting at that, obviously. It's the
Right.
service. It's the service. Just so you guys know, it's the service station next to M Bar. It's going to be knocked down and made into something pretty cool that complements M Bar. And Sergio is the civil engineer, and he'll be carrying the water for me. So.
Great.
I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting, but just so you know, I am recording the meeting.
Okay.
That's statutory, Keith. How you inform us.
Well, just as the meeting, ends and I don't want people to think, no one's listening to them.
Right. Oh, like that. Was it Simsbury or something? Did you see that councilman who he was making a joke how they're having their council meeting and shit, I'm sitting here doing my taxes and his mic was on. Oh, it was epic.
Oh no.
But yeah, we've switched to at the college, from spring break. All of our classes are online, and it's been really interesting. We've got some faculty who have adapted no problem, and some faculty that just found out they had email, so it's it's been something else. And the students, there's some students who they have anxiety and pressure because of all of this, and they literally have checked out. It's just amazing. The stress it's put on some people, and others it hasn't affected at all. Great little study for future grad schools.
Yeah. Well, I bet for some kids, it's just a hard transition to make.
Big time. Yeah.
My daughter's been home from UConn since spring break, and she's just fallen in stride with all her classes and her lab work, and yeah, it's didn't really miss a beat. She missed her friends. I think that's the biggest,
Right.
being on campus and stuff.
And there's some homes where there's a lot of homes I think where the parents need the laptop, the kids need the laptop, and it's they don't have a lot of resources, and I think there's more of them than the others that have a lot of resources, and that's where I think it gets gets a little challenging. It's a new day.
Does your Leslie, does your daughter have the lab in the basement with
It's actually upstairs, one of the
science project?
the library upstairs. No, the lab is at UConn, but so there's someone, her boss goes into the lab and then sends her all the data that she has to analyze and program, I guess. So she's been able to at least keep that job outside her coursework. Yeah.
Well,
Chris Thorpe, have you been unintentionally muted through this?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh.
I've been listening dutifully.
oh, Chris,
Oh.
there. I didn't even know.
I didn't know you were there.
Are you just on a phone, or are you on a phone and computer?
While we were sitting here, I was on just the phone, but I've managed to get the video up. I'm having mic problems here, so it's been a little dicey other than phone the last couple of days, but I'm watching all of you right now.
Okay. Because I muted everyone earlier, so I didn't mean to shut you out.
We don't see
Well
you
done,
though.
gang.
Chris.
Because I'm on my phone, Leslie.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Got a camera mic thing that went out, so I'll be back online when we do this again.
Okay.
All right, in the next meeting, we should have another application for the Masonic Temple on Pequot Trail that's doing an addition.
Wow, I designed a whole hall to replace the one that's there years ago. I'm a Mason.
Oh.
I know the secrets.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Michael, are you a Mason?
Not that I know of. No, I haven't. No. No.
I was very impressed when I went through the orders how tied to architecture it is.
Oh yeah.
Very, very impressed. Yeah, it is. They're not out in the back like killing goats and stuff. The whole process is very steeped in architecture. That's, if I tell you more, I'll have to come kill you all. That's good. I'd like to see what they've come up with. I'm a member of that lodge, but don't go.
Mhm.
Well, great. So are we ready to adjourn?
Yeah, there's no other business.
All right. Good to see everybody. Stay healthy. Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second that.
it.
All right. Motion accepted.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right.
Care.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.